You are about to have so much fun because this is the Great Lockdown Watch Enthusiast quiz. And up for grabs, we have got to the winner of the quiz, this wonderful Invicta Pro Diver with the blue dial there. Look at that lovely watch. You can win this watch if you get all the questions right in the quiz and also win the tiebreaker question at the end. So this is how it works. There are going to be 3 rounds of 8 questions. Now, the first round is on watch collecting, the second round is on the history of watches, and the third round, to really separate the men from the boys and the ladies from the girls, that is going to be on basic horology. Then there will be a tiebreaker question right at the end. Now you can enter this for just for fun. The best way to do it is to watch the video because there are going to be some clues to the answers in the video. But to enter, you need to go to my website. So let's have a look at how that works. Okay, so entering the competition could not be simpler. Firstly, it is free. You will find a link to this webpage, which is on my website, in the comments below this video. So the first thing to do is to click that and it will take you to this page on my website. Now, the first thing that you're going to see on this page is actually the embedded video where I am circling my mouse at the moment. Okay, so the video, the YouTube video will be there. Then we have got the rules for the competition and I commend those to you. There are only 9, so give them a quick read. And then all you have to do is start filling in the form here. So, you know, I would give my email address as richard@richardperrett.com, which is my actual email address, and my first name, which is Richard, and my surname, which is Perrett. And in a minute, you're going to get a very quick look at the first lot of questions, because here are the questions. And then simply, most of this, as you can see, is multi-choice. Just this is the first round in watch collecting. Go through the questions, and when you finish the first round, then you can click next there and go to the second round. So just one thing to bear in mind, if it'll let me go back, the deadline for submission is midday GMT, Friday the 31st of July of this year. So if you are watching this video after that date, then you won't be entered for the competition. But do not worry, you can still enter the competition for fun. I'm going to leave it up there. Here we go then with round 1, which is about watch collecting. And here is the first question. Which brand of luxury watches is best known for its superlative chronometer standard? Is it Rolex, Richard Mille, Beauvais, or Hublot, which I can never pronounce? And by the way, anybody says, right, that my hair is making me look like John Lennon loses 10 points from their score. I have not been able to see the lovely Sarah who cuts my hair for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. However, banter is always allowed within limits on the comments. Let's get to question number 2. Question number 2 is watches rated to perform within the superlative chronometer standard must achieve a daily timing deviation tolerance as follows. Is it -5 seconds to +5 seconds? Is that good enough? Is it -1 minute to +2 minutes? Is it -2 seconds to +2 seconds? Or is it must be exactly on time? Question number 3. Now, tricky question this. Tea Swiss-T written on a watch dial indicates that the dial is symmetrical and must not have a date window. The dial contains tritium as the active component in the loom. Or the dial contains a green glowing chemical called strontium in the loom. Or the dial was designed by the Swiss-T design team, that's the dial design team in Geneva. Which one of those is the correct answer? Remember guys, there is a lovely Invicta Pro Diver up for grabs here. Question number 4 is a James Bond question. In the delayed James Bond film, No Time to Die, which is coming out now in the autumn because of, it was due to come out a few weeks ago, but because of this horrible coronavirus thing, it's coming out now in the autumn. In that movie, Mr. Bond is going to appear sporting which brand of watch? Will he be wearing a Casio G-Shock, a Rolex, an Omega, or a Patek Philippe? Now, here is the first, I would say, of the tricky questions. So, pencils at the ready. Question number 5, round 1. What sentence below best describes the difference between a chronometer and a chronograph? Is it this? A chronometer is a complication added to a watch which gives it some kind of stopwatch capability, whereas a chronograph is an indication that the watch has passed a chronograph accuracy standard. It's the first option. Select that if you think it's right. The second is a chronometer is a special type of chronograph only made in Switzerland. Thirdly, a chronograph is a complication added to a watch which gives it some kind of stopwatch capability, whereas a chronometer is an indication that the watch has passed a chronometer accuracy standard. Is it that? Or, lastly, there is no difference between the terms. The terms are actually completely interchangeable. Chronometer and chronograph pretty much mean the same thing. If you think that's the answer, select that one. Now, this next question, oh no, that's not the next one. This is the next one. Okay, you are looking, this is question number 6, by the way. You are looking at a vintage Seiko, and on the back of the case, you see 2 sets of 4 numbers. Now, what information can you glean from those 2 sets of 4 numbers? Which one of these 4 answers is accurate? Firstly, the first set of numbers indicates the Seiko movement caliber, and the second 4 are a Seiko quality assurance reference. The numbers, that's all of them, are a unique reference to this individual watch, which when looked up at trackmyseiko.com will give the date of manufacture of the watch. The numbers were added by Seiko because they figured it made the watch look cooler. Lastly, and select this last one if you think this one is right. The first 4 numbers indicate the Seiko caliber inside the watch, and the second 4 refer to the case design used in the watch. Okay, question number 7, round 1. Just for fun or to win the lovely Invicta Pro Diver. Let's go. Which of the following watch brands, which of the following are not famous watch brands? And in this answer, you need to tick all that apply. So, some of these listed here are not famous watch brands. Okay. Cartier, Daytona, Jacques Dreux, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Graf, Bulliver, Maserati. Tick any of those which are not famous watch manufacturers or brands. And the last question on round one, and this is about just the most amazing watch in the world. If you've not seen this thing, it'll blow your mind. This is a watch made by Breguet for Marie Antoinette. The watch took 40 years to make. It's the most astonishing piece of horology. It's probably the most astonishing piece of horology in the galaxy. Now, it was called number 160 Grand Complication, and it is curated as part of an important collection in a museum in which country in the world? Is it in Russia? Is it in France? Is it in Israel? Or is it in Switzerland? That is the end of the first round. And welcome to round two, which is about the history of wristwatches, which is why I am wearing my Viking hat, because the first question in this round is about watches, wristwatches during the Viking period. And so question number one is this: the only Viking era wristwatch ever discovered was on the island of Corfu. It was found by a fisherman, was thought to be owned by a wealthy merchant, was made of gold, and had the following basic movement. Okay, which was it? A verge fusee with a simple crude hairspring made from hog hair. Very Viking. It was a quartz movement, and accurate only to 5 minutes a day. Select that one if you think it's right. The question is nonsense, because the Vikings did not have wristwatches. Or last, it was solar powered because it's very sunny on Corfu. Moving to the next question, which is we move forward to the 18th century. So, which 18th century watchmaker won a prize from the British Admiralty for creating a timepiece so accurate for the period that Royal Naval vessels could use it to determine their longitude whilst at sea? Now, was it which of the following? Was it George Daniels, Roger Smith, Captain Horatio Hornblower, Royal Navy and Fellow of the Royal Horological Society, or was it John Harrison? Which of those was it? We are in the second round of the great Watch Enthusiast quiz, where you can win the Invicta Pro Diver watch. So here we are, question number 3. Now, to get the answer to this question, you're going to have to look through some of my videos probably. At which 19th century European exposition did the maker, Mr. Borjat of Geneva, win a first-class medal for his work? So here's a watchmaker in the 19th century making watches. He's called Mr. Borjat. I made a video on his work. Which European exposition in the 19th century did he win a first-class medal for that watch? You're going to have to look at my back catalogue for that probably, unless your knowledge is totally awesome. We move on to question number 4, which is a Rolex question. Who swam the English Channel in 1927 wearing an early Rolex Oyster watch? Now, was it Mercedes Gleitz, who was a secretary from Great Britain? Was it a guy called Ernest Hoffman, who was a doctor from Glasgow? Was it nobody? Nobody actually did it, but a guy called Andrew Braithwaite did swim it wearing an Omega Seamaster? If you think that's right, select that question. Or was it a lady called Svetlana Shigalot, who is an athlete from, or was an athlete from St. Petersburg? Okay. Don't think it was called St. Petersburg in 1927. Leningrad? I don't know. My Soviet history is not that great. But there we are. Those are the 4 options. That's a Rolex question. Moving on to question number 5 in the history of watches. In 2017, how much money was paid at auction for the Rolex Daytona Cosmograph, once owned by Hollywood actor Paul Newman? Was it $17,800? Was it $178 million? Was it $17.8 million? Or was it that the watch didn't actually meet its reserve? Which of those was it, guys? Big auction for the Rolex Daytona. Moving on, we're now back in the 1960s. Which Argentine-born Marxist revolutionary is reported to have had his Rolex GMT Master removed from his watch by a CIA operative at his death in October 1967? So we're talking about a huge poster, I want to say poster boy. I'm going to take his hat off, actually. It is the history, but we've moved on from the Viking period, so I'm going to remove my Viking hat. We are talking 1960s. We are talking in the kind of Caribbean area. Big Marxist revolutionary. He actually wore, he had several Rolexes, this guy, but he wore a GMT Master and he had it on at his death, and it was supposedly removed by a CIA operative. Now, was it Fidel Castro? Was it that this actually, the question is rubbish because it cannot be true, because a Rolex is a symbol of capitalism and would not be worn by any Marxist revolutionary. Is that true? Or was it a guy called Che Guevara? Or was it Bob Marley? There we are, moving on. We are now going to NASA. We are on question 7, the penultimate question of the second round. Guys, you are nearly 2/3 of the way through this fun quiz. And in 1969, NASA landed 2 men on the surface of the moon. Which watch was on the man who left the lunar module first? What brand of watch was he wearing? Was he wearing an Omega? Was he wearing a Rolex? Was he wearing a Bulova? Or the 4th option, all the watches, he wasn't wearing any watch because they all had to stay in the spacecraft for insurance purposes. So the last question on round 2. In 2017, which watch brand released a high accuracy mechanical watch with a monolithic silicon oscillator working at 15 hertz? Guys, if you didn't know this, you need to check this out, because this is a revolutionary thing, right? Okay, was it Grand Seiko, Patek Philippe, Rolex, or Zenith? That is the end of round 2. So one last thing, when you have finished the 3rd round, you may be presented with a blank screen. Just make sure you scroll up and you will see the finishing up questions here. And here you can indicate whether I am doing the quiz just for fun and education, or whether you want to be entered for the competition to win the Invicta Pro Diver. Now, if you are entering the competition, you have to share this video on a social media platform, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or anything other. So please do that and I can say for sure so please do that. Then we have got the tiebreaker question. Here I would like to know why you would like to win the Invicta Pro Diver, which of course is required for the competition entry. Then all you have to do is confirm that you are entering. Then all you have to do is click on this box which confirms that you have read the rules and agreed to abide by them, and then click submit. And that is it, you are entered. You will then be able to immediately see your score. You might have to scroll up to see that. It will just say click here to see your score. And that, guys, is it. And we have reached the last round, and it is about horology. So I'm going to stick my loop on for this round so I feel the part. Now, the questions in this basic horology round are a little bit more tricky than the others, because we're starting to try now and sort the wheat from the chaff and see who is going to win the awesome Invicta Pro Diver watch. Okay, so, oh, by the way, you can look this stuff up on the internet if you want. There's no kind of cheating with that. You just, because you're learning stuff, right? It's just a bit of fun, really. Okay, so here is the first question on the basic horology round. Just checking that I am actually being recorded here. And so, question 1. The purpose of a mainspring in a mechanical watch is to store potential energy that can be transferred through the powertrain to the escapement, where it can be released under regulation, a regulation mechanism that supports an indication of time passing. That is the first option. The second option, the purpose of a mainspring, is to fly across the watch bench when mishandled, scattering £14,000 worth of Rolex parts as punishment for the careless watchmaker. Or is it that, or is it the first one, or is it to give power to the alarm mechanism on a watch with an alarm complication? Or finally, is the mainspring to provide an oscillation mechanism for the escapement? Okay, tricky question. We are really getting into it now. Now look at the picture that you can see on the screen. And this is simple. You just have to identify what this component is called. Is it, firstly, a pallet fork? Is it a coaxial escapement tuning fork? Is it a balance stop fork? Or is it none of the above? What is this small component found in a lot of mechanical watches? We are now on to the third question. When designing a watch, it is helpful to consider that generally, if you decide to increase the frequency of oscillation at the escapement, the following will result. Now you need to tick which of these, any of these which apply. So we are increasing the frequency at which the balance oscillates, and we're deciding to do that as a design decision. What is the knock-on effect of that design decision? Firstly, that the accuracy will improve as a direct result of that frequency change. That's the first option. Select that if you think it's true. The power reserve will be reduced. So where you used to get 41 hours of power, the mainspring will run out quicker. Okay, so maybe you only get 28 hours of power reserve. The third knock-on effect is the impact on accuracy due to physical shocks that the watch receives will be mitigated. Okay, so the watch is going to be more accurate, not because of the frequency increase, but because the frequency increase causes the watch to have less distortion to its accuracy when it's knocked about a bit. Okay, these questions are quite complicated now, and deliberately so. And finally, that the sweep hand will appear to advance in a smoother motion. Tick all that apply. The next question, I'm not sure I've got the numbering right here, but this is question 2.4. The mechanism within a watch that is attached to the hands and which handles the gear ratios between the hands is called the going train, the power train, the motion work, or the time readout assembly. Okay, I'll read those again. The going train, the power train, the motion work, or the time readout assembly. That is, only one of those apply. We're getting close to the end now, guys. A watch often contains, and this is the fifth question in the third round, a watch often contains a component which sits under the dial and has the job of keeping downward pressure on the hour wheel to keep it engaged. This is called the hour wheel washer, the dial washer, the foil, or none of the above. Okay, tick any one of these that apply. Now clearly, if you're ticking the bottom one, you don't want to tick any of the others. That logically follows. Okay, we are getting close now. The assembly within a watch which most often houses the mainspring is called the barrel, or mainspring barrel if the watch has other barrels, the chest, or mainspring chest if the watch has other chests. I can't pronounce this, but die Fliegergauser. Oh God, I think that's German for spring housing. Anyway, or all three of the above. Okay, that's not such a difficult question. You're going to see a picture now on the screen of a time grapher trace. Okay, and it is pictured, as you can see there. Is this watch that is being monitored on the time grapher here, is it gaining time or losing time every day? Which of those answers is right? We are on the last question. Ta-da! The famous watchmaker George Daniels created a design for an escapement which Omega now uses in many of its watches. The name of this escapement is it the Breguet overcoil escapement, the double roller tourbillon escapement, the turbo verge fusee escapement, or the coaxial escapement? Which of those are right? Guys, that is the end of the quiz in terms of the questions. Now, when you're on the website, as you can see here, there's a few other questions. There's a tiebreaker question in which I ask you why it is that you would like to win the Invicta Pro Diver. So if I have two people or more with all of the answers right, it is the answer to that question that will determine the winner of the prize. So I hope you found that fun and interesting to do. You can use any resources that you like, internet, phone a friend, whatever, to get the answers. Remember to go to my website, and also to, if you want to enter the competition, to share this video on social media. Guys, that is it. Good luck to you all in entering this competition. I hope you've had fun, as much fun as I've had in making it. Now, if you like my channel, then please subscribe. This is not a usual video for my channel. Normally I'm showing you, the intricacies of servicing a Rolex Explorer or a old pocket watch or something like that. But guys, if you like horology, this is the channel to be at, because we do all sorts of stuff on my channel and have as much fun and try and give as much information as possible. So please subscribe, because I have a great plan for the future and a pretty good back catalogue actually of videos to watch. Now I've got some 60 videos on the channel there. But for tonight, from a small town here called Pembroke Dock on the southwest coast of Wales in the United Kingdom, I hope you've enjoyed this little quiz. But for tonight, that's all I've got for you. So good night and God bless.